Welcome to another episode of Identity Biker. Okay, today what we're going to be looking at is looking at the state of your battery. My Road Glide is coming up to 6 years old, and the battery is the original battery. So what I want to do is crack in and have a look at the battery. It's been a bit slow with the old start, so we're just going to do some battery tests and see how this battery performs.
Identity Biker.
To get to the battery on the Tourers, it's under the seat, so you've got to take the rear seat off by taking this thumb screw out, pulling the seat backwards. Don't lose the little plastic bit. We've got to remove these two thumb screws. And then you can pull up over your studs and back to take the tongue out of the front holder. And that's your seat. Okay, so this leads you into the top of the bike. The battery sits under this engine control module. So what you have to do here is you have to remove these two rears that hold this tray in. And once these two bolts are out, you have to work this tray above the cables, which is a bit of a pain, but you can do it. And then these grey and black cables, which run the wiring at the back of your bike, are just on Christmas tree, so you can pull them out if you need to. Give you a bit more space. And at the front here, if you can see, there's a bit of metal sticking out. That's a tongue that you got to get over the top. You got to get the tray over it, so you got to push forward and pull up, and there you go, that's out. You see that hooks over that bit of metal. Right, so what I do from here is I put these bolts back in here so we don't lose them. And the next thing I do is I get a zip tie, and I zip tie this back here out of the way. So that's going to make sure it's not hanging on your paint. It's going to make sure it's not annoying your engine control module. Okay, and there's your battery. So now we've got access to the battery, we can test the voltage of the battery. Now of course on your Tourer your voltage comes up here on your dash, so you can always check your voltage there. But if you have a voltage meter, you can simply check your voltage here. Okay, so you can see the battery reads at 12.84 volts. Now what we're going to do is turn the bike on. Now you can see you want your battery to stay above 12 volts when you turn the bike on. That's settling at 12. Now you want to check your cranking volts, and you don't want your cranking volts to go below 10 volts. So let's start the bike. Okay, I don't know if you saw there, but your cranking volts come to about 9.5 volts. Okay, so 9.5 volts isn't too bad for cranking voltage, but as you heard with the bike, it did turn over a little bit slowly. So the fact that this battery is 6 years old and batteries should only last 3 to 5 years, it's worthwhile changing the battery. if you're on the side of the road and you stop for lunch and you come out with your group of friends and bikers and you go to start your bike and your bike doesn't start because you know you haven't changed your battery on spec, you think to yourself, oh, I'm an idiot. But you don't have to go to this length to pull your bike apart to jump start your bike. On the Tourers, if you look down here, you have a starter motor positive terminal. So you can hook a jump starter to any bit of grounded part of your bike for the negative, and the positive on the back of your starter motor positive terminal, and you'll start your bike. So that's an easy way to jump start your bike. Okay, so your new battery is going to come with instructions. Which are fairly basic. Our Australian bikes, they all have alarms on. So when you remove the battery, you're going to set your alarm off. So before you remove your battery, you have to have the fob present, turn the bike on, remove the side cover and pull the main fuse, and that'll stop your alarm going off. So let's do that. Okay, so the next thing we have to do to stop the alarm going off is remove the main fuse. So for this, you have to remove your saddlebag to remove your side cover and pull the main fuse when the bike's started. Not started, but on. So fob present, bike on. Okay, on the CVO, because you have wiring, you got to pull this wiring off. So you got to pull up on this yellow bit here, and that's your clip, and then you can pull it off. Yeah, pull the connection off that way. And this bag of rags I set up earlier to sit
it safely on there.
as long as no one bumps it. Now to pull your side cover off, it's just held with rubber detents. So you've got 3 clips, 2 at the top and 1 down the bottom.
Just pull it off.
Those 3 fit in those 3. So pretty simple. Okay, so what we're going to do now is have the fob present. There's my fob. Bike recognises the fob. Turn the ignition on. And then we're going to pull the main fuse. Now this big red fuse is your main fuse. So now we've pulled that, we've taken power from the bike. Don't lose this. So now the main fuse is off, we can remove the battery. So your battery terminals are 10 mil. Now you remove your negative terminal first. This takes the ground away from the battery, so if anything touches the positive now, it's not going to spark. And now we can take the positive. And basically we just want to push those terminals out of the way. And then you'll notice there's a strap here that you can use to aid to pull the battery up.
So much easier than the Heritage.
Yeah, the Heritage, you've got to take half the side of the bike apart. Right, so that battery's out now. So the new battery comes fully charged already, but if you get the battery, it's good to just make sure it's fully charged. So you can measure it and check what your voltage is. This voltage was okay. The Harley battery has this plastic bit. The only use for that plastic bit is to hold your new screws. That's all it does. Now there are your new screws. Let's take the battery over here. Okay, let's get our new battery into position. Make sure your connections are well out of the way. Remembering to get your pull tab in the position it needs to be. There we go. She's tied in there. Okay, so now when we're putting the battery in, we're going to connect it the other way around. So positive terminal first. Okay, that's tight, but not over tight. Now, secondly, we connect our negative terminal. Obviously with the lead out the back. Now you notice while I was connecting these battery terminals that I also have heated battery wires. So when you put your new battery in, you've got to make sure you've got your heated battery wires connected again. So anything that you have connected, lights, etc., you need to make sure they're back in a position where they're comfortable and where they can be accessed properly. So everything you run on your battery still runs on your battery. Okay, so that battery's in now. All right, now we need to put our tray back in. The zip tie we connected earlier, simply get that out the way. Now the first thing you have to do is hook this tray back over that metal clip. So it's a bit difficult, but you just got to work it down.
Everything else is out the way.
Yeah, get everything out the way. All your cables and things. There we go. As you can see, it's hooked on. Okay.
Very good. Tabs in.
Tucking the tabs back under the cables. There you go. So give it a bit of a push and you'll feel it clip down. So when your battery tray is connected properly, these should pretty well be only a couple of mil from where they're supposed to go. Then put your bolts back in. It's plastic, so don't over tighten it. You just want to bring it down to it meets and then just give it a little bit of a firm tension. Okay, now I said before about Christmas trees. These are the Christmas trees I'm talking about. They fit in those holes. So grey in grey, says GR there. Black in black says BLK there. That's where your wiring goes. Okay, so our next step is doing the exact opposite is fitting our seat. Now to fit the seat, you just have to push down on the front to get that over that. All right, and what we want to do is carefully fit over our bolts. Okay, your thumb screws, you want to do up reasonably tight. Now again, your fork just fits over your bolts, and you just line that up, making sure you don't lose this bit of plastic, and do up this thumbnail. Again, tight enough so it won't come loose, but not too tight that you can't get it off with your fingers. Fob present, ignition on, fuse goes in. You'll hear the bike turn on. Okay, so now we can turn the bike off and reconnect the saddlebag and side cover. Line up the 3 dongers into the 3 receptacles. Okay, they'll all come off again when I wash the bike anyway, so it's no big deal. As you bring the clip down a little bit, it'll clip further in and pull all the way into lock. Do your saddlebag nuts back up. Again, reasonably tight, you don't want them falling off when you're going down the highway. Okay, so the very last test. Let's turn the bike on. You see our voltage has come up to where it should be. Start the bike. New battery. I've ran the bike for a little bit then, just to A, let the bike warm up so it's not getting a cold start, and B, allowing it long enough to burn off any moisture that might have been sitting in the bike since it's been sitting overnight. While that's running a little bit, it also gives you time to pack up your tools and put stuff away, and then you can turn your bike off and you know you're good to go. So thanks for joining us for changing the battery in the bike. Remember 2 things. 1, if you're ever stuck on the side of the road, you can simply jump start your bike at the positive terminal at the back of your starter motor and any grounded part on the bike. So that'll get you moving again. And 2, when you're testing your bike, don't just rely on your voltage gauge up there. You need to be able to test your cranking voltage. And make sure that cranking voltage doesn't drop below 9.5 volts, and better to be not dropping below 10.5 volts. If it's constantly dropping below 9.5, you may have an issue. You may have an issue with the battery, you may have an issue with your starter, or you may have an issue with your decompression not working. So they're all things that could lead to that, but 90% of the time, it'll be your battery. See you next time. Remember, get on your bike and ride. Smithy's out.